The pots that I'm making right now are completely inspired by my great-grandmother's pottery. None of it matched. None of it was exactly the same, and she put these beautiful, or there were these beautiful images at the bottom of each bowl, and we didn't know which one we were going to get until we finished our food. So it was kind of like this incentive to eat hamburger stew with carrots, which I really don't like, just to find out if I was going to have like a pink rose or a dog at the bottom of my bowl. The images on clay, it's a memory, and it's a good one. I think that's why I like to share it with people. I started working in clay in undergrad. I was supposed to be an education major, and then I realized that I wasn't that thrilled about teaching other people's children, and so I kind of freaked out a little bit and ended up taking a painting class, which then led to a ceramics class. And immediately I fell in love with hand building and figurative art. I later studied in Cyprus, taking advantage of the cross-cultural opportunities that my undergrad offered. And I had the opportunity to study with a couple Cypriot artists, British artists, Turkish and Bulgarian artists. And more importantly, I got to go to Egypt and around Cyprus and see the figures that I had only ever seen in books before, and the pots that I had only seen in books before. And because of the lack of restrictions in those areas, especially at that time, it was in 2004, if you wanted to, you could reach right out and touch them, which is like a huge no-no, but I got to do it anyway. And there's something about picking up a piece of pottery and knowing that it's really old and that somebody's touched it and made it and put this energy into it. And it's like, I don't know, it just gives me chills. And I think that that's when I really realized that, yeah, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I think that was the beginning of also seeing artists working. There were two brothers in Lemba. One brother was in Lemba and the other one was in Paphos, and their father had been a master potter in the area. And one brother expanded and was doing mass production, press molds, which there's nothing wrong with. There's an absolute place for that. And then the other brother decided that he wasn't going to stick with traditional Cypriot pottery. And after seeing all the stuff in museums and over at his brother's place, tourist style work, I went into his studio and it was like I was back in the US. And he had just he'd done his own thing. And I think even I had the opportunity to go to Japan this last spring as well. And I think it's the same thing. You're gonna see this beautiful amount of traditional sticking close to the work. But then there's always somebody who's like, screw that, I'm doing my own thing. And it's really funny because I kind of get that a little bit here in Knoxville. Even though what I'm doing isn't unique to the ceramics world, I think that it's different for here, at least for right now. And it's kind of cool because you don't have to conform. Yeah, that's it. Individuality and, yeah, not conforming. So Jenny has grown up in the studio. When I got her, she was about 6 months old. And I was working in a ceramic studio and was able to bring her to work with me. And even the potter that I'm working for right now, she still gets to come to work with me. So she's probably one of the best studio assistants, but she's not very hardworking. We start out with the clay from the bag, center it on the wheel, form my piece. Sometimes I trim it, sometimes I don't. I always sponge it off, and then I add my color, either through my decals or by painting it on. And then same firing, glazing, and then firing again. So my sculptures are food safe, even though they don't need to be. But so is the pot, so it's all good. The figures come from another grandmother. My grandfather bought her porcelain dolls, I think because he thought she liked them. And so she had this massive collection. And when I was in 9th grade, my parents were building a new home, and we lived with my grandparents. And it just so happened that the doll storage facility closet was in the room I was sleeping, and if I left my closet door open, the light from the hall would just hit their eyes in the most creepy but intriguing way. And I think that's kind of what I'm hoping for. There's a childlike quality to them. They're kind of cute, but they're kind of rude, and they're kind of strange or potentially creepy. And there's a Japanese term for it. It's called kawaii. It's creepy cute. And so I think that that's the direction I'm going to stay with these guys. You know, I love making pots, and they're very special to me, but they're to pay the bills. And when I get the opportunity to make a person, that's when I'm really like in the zone. I don't know, some people call it the God factor, like this need to create people. And I think that's a little bit of what it is just, you know, taking little bits and pieces of the people that I know or that I see, and then combining them into this figure. And the human figure is so universal that on some level everybody's gonna get it. And it doesn't have to be super exciting, or it can change your life. But if I can just, like, again, share that with somebody else and get that kind of reaction just for a split second, then I kind of feel like I've succeeded in that. The benefit of throwing on the wheel over hand building is the speed at which you can produce work. So to have little helpers like this really help move things along. So, and then I have this lovely little guy. So sometimes I'll make a maquette, and I'll use this little guy. I'll push the clay in and kind of move him around, kind of like Gumby, and situate him the way I want him to be. Or was it Stretch Armstrong? That's the one who you could like move. And then I'll just have like a little guy that I don't have to put too much time into. It's called a maquette, but that way I have a basic idea to work off of. So when I move into the larger one, he'll be where he needs to be. Basically work out all the problems before you start the big piece. So. When I first started putting my work out, it was a little different. I hadn't really found the style that I was going for, but people seem to be pretty responsive. I have people coming back saying, hey, I made a pie and your pie plate, or your mug's the only one I use at work. And you know, pottery is the way that I pay my bills. And so on one hand it's a job, but on the other hand it's like, yeah, sharing little bits of myself with these people that I don't know but have had this amazing opportunity to get to know because of a bowl. And it's pretty great. When you're an artist, you can make a lot of work and it can sit on your shelf in your studio, and you might put a picture of it up on your webpage, but it collects dust. And you know, if people can't enjoy it, then it's just for you. And you know, I guess that's kind of selfish, but yeah, like, I think it's the same thing with teaching. You know, art is for sharing, ideas are for sharing, techniques are for sharing. And if you're gonna sit in a closed studio all day and nobody sees how you're doing it or what you're doing, then the joy is just your own, and it's smaller because of that. I love seeing people, whether they're 8 years old, or I actually just had an 80-year-old woman in my class, getting it. Like there's that moment where it's like, I get this, and then they just run with it. And you know, I get to be a cheerleader, a knowledgeable cheerleader, for like an hour and a half or 3 hours, depending on how long the class is. And it's really cool to see somebody else take that excitement, take that knowledge, and then move forward with it. It's just this great chain reaction. I don't work a 9 to 5, for sure. Probably put in about 65 to 80 hours a week just on my own work, and then another, usually 15 to 20, which is kind of insane. But I go to bed thinking about what I'm doing in the studio, and I wake up thinking about it, and it's not stressing me out. And if I break even, I think I'm gonna be content for the rest of my life. I want to do this, you know, till the day I die. And I secretly, though it's not a secret anymore, I want to make my own urn and then put the ashes in it, which is just like a really sick ceramic thing, but I know I'm not the only one.